Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to episode 4, the final episode of the NOCN Eat Your Greens series. This webinar will focus on an introduction to retrofit. The Eat Your Greens series is brought to you by FE Week and Educationscape in partnership with lead sponsor NOCN, who will lead the webinar today, with input from industry guests, Swifix. I will shortly hand over to Graham Hastings-Evans, Chief Executive of NOCN. But before I do, I would like to invite you to submit any questions you may have through the question and answers feature during the webinar for the relevant presenter to answer via the Q&A feature. There will be time for final questions at the end of all the presentations. I would like to thank our sponsor and industry guests and now welcome Graham Hastings-Evans from NOCN and invite him to commence the presentation of the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jo. Welcome everybody. I hope you enjoy this. This is the fourth in the series. So we'll move to a few introductory slides and then we'll get into the I was going to say the meat of it, but the greens of it, should we? Yes. Okay. So you want to move the slides? We've lost the slides. Okay. Okay. Thanks. The background to this is the new government's missions around 1.5 million homes, and linked to that, obviously, improving the quality of our homes. So 1.5 million new homes, better standards of housing, and also clean energy. So moving to net zero. So that's all about new sources of energy. So wind and solar and well, I'd like to say wave, but we're not doing that in the UK. And fitting with that, the government has announced funding for England just over 600 million over the life of this Parliament to spend on upskilling the construction workforce to help with those two missions. And they put in place a governance arrangement, and it's called the Construction Skills Mission Board, which has started to meet, and we'll start to see some action out of that in the autumn. They're doing some work at the moment as to how we might approach the skills gaps and all of those problems, and to improve people's skills in terms of green skills. The other thing that's sitting around in the background and coming out in the autumn is, following on from Grenville, is to start regulating the industry in terms of skills. And there's a piece of work which the industry has been doing called super sectors, which is to start to relook at all the competency frameworks that we need, not only from the what you might call the traditional trades, but how we start to change those traditional trades so they've got the extra skills in terms of green skills, as well as the new occupations. The government has been changing qualifications in level 2 and level 3. That will continue, and there is a curriculum review, but that I think will be more academically focused. That's due out in the autumn. Those two things that are worth noting is that the government is consulting now on the changes to apprenticeship assessments, EPA, and they're starting a pilot on on carpentry and joinery. And that's started and it is underway, and that's to change the way that apprentices are assessed. There's also a new thing that the government's come out with called foundation apprenticeships, but there's none of those that support green skills. They're looking at a couple of the traditional house building occupations. Not gone down very well with industry. That doesn't actually at the moment is not supporting them. So if you haven't got an employer, you haven't got an apprentice. So I'm not sure where that particular policy is going to land. What we have seen is continued work around apprenticeship standards. So there's a new installation apprenticeship There is also, I think, a better understanding in government and around that we actually need modular, stackable learning and accreditation so that we can take the existing workforce and start to upskill them so they can support a net zero world. The other thing that is worth, the last thing that is worth picking on is something called industrial strategy. For those of you that have been in education, you may not notice that. But the government came out, the new government came out with a view that there were 8 industry sectors which would drive economic growth and wealth in the country, and 2 supporting sectors. Construction is one of those, social care and health is the other. So that's really important because the government is going to spend money on those 8 growth sectors and the 2 supporting ones. Hence the 600 million in England. There's about 120 million for Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland in addition to that. So that's just the English figure. And there's been a recent announcement from the Department of Business and Trade. Their select committee has recommended that adult skills and apprenticeships move from DFE to business and trade. They become part of the economy, not part of education. And the government has recently announced that Department of Business and Trade seems to be taking control of the growth and skills levy changes. So from next April, there will be more flexibility in terms of adding modules and adding other training into those into construction and the other key sectors for driving the economy. So ones to watch. Yeah. Next, please. Next, please.
It's coming back, Graham.
Yeah. Yeah. Kicking yourself out. About 3 years ago, might be a bit more than that now. I keep saying 3 years, but the months are passing by, so it's probably a bit more than 3 years ago. We produced a report and we started to get to meet people. People were saying, we don't know what green skills is, what it's all about. There's no qualifications, there's no short courses, there's nothing. And an initiative started in the Southwest, which it was called the Green Construction Advisory Panel. We've changed it to the Green Skills Advisory Panel. And what it said was, look, there's not a lot happening, and there's a lot of noise in government and lots of talk, but not a lot of do. So why don't we down on the ground do some do? So it's and what happened? Exeter College was the focus. They started to drag and they set this up, and it pulls together your housing corporations, your local authorities, the local employers, the building merchants, anybody and everybody that's got skin in the game for getting to net zero, and to start to share a local initiative. And that includes getting down into the schools. You see a picture there of a competition on green skills that we've been running every year now for 3 years. And we started this approach, which to actually make progress. And since then, we have made progress. We've developed a lot of courses. We've started developing some full qualifications, and we've got the interest going, and it's about doing. So we sit people down, all of the stakeholders around the room. What do we need now? That's what we need. Right, let's go and do it. And we've got real progress by that local initiative. Yeah, which sort of fits. Yes, yeah, got the next one.
Yeah, just go ahead, Graham. It's just going to come back onto the screen in a moment.
Sorry about that. The gremlins. So from that one region, we've developed now over 20 within the UK, and we're starting to see some abroad being interested of taking this local action group and actually driving real benefit down on the ground. So next, please. We've got a national board now to drive this forward. The next one coming up. Yeah, so there's a list. Kent's coming in the autumn. I was there yesterday. So there's a lot moving forward, and they're seeing real benefit from taking this local action. Okay, let DFE and DESNES and all the others do what they got to do, but we need action down on the ground that's practical and drives real change. And we've got a number internationally that's starting to pick up the same sorts of ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Graham. I'd now like to welcome Paul Brown, our industry guest from Swifix. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Can you see my screen okay? Is it sharing okay?
We can see your slide, but we can see your slide deck. So you just need to go to the slideshow and share that, please.
There we go. How's that?
That's perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody is well. So retrofit, what is it all about? So I was asked to give an overview, but before I do that, I suppose I'll give you a little bit of background of who I am. My name is Paul Brown. I'm the director of a company called Swifix Limited, and this is a product business that we supply products into the retrofit sector, specifically around external wall insulation. I'm also the director of Support for Success, which is an independent training company. I also do some associate lecturing for the local college in Exeter. I'm a qualified assessor. I sit on the board of INCA, which is the Insulated and Render and Cladding Association. I sit alongside Graham as well on the GSAP board member, and I'm a qualified retrofit coordinator. I don't practice as a retrofit coordinator because I was lured into education by the team at Exeter College, so I've not been practicing. So anyway, I'm just going to go on. I'm going to keep this fairly brief because it's quite a large subject, but the reality is, what is retrofit all about? Many people ask me, what do I do? And I say, oh, I'm involved in the retrofit sector. And I explain that it's just a new way to say you're future-proofing your home. You know, it's not new. Lots of this technology has been around for 50, 60, even 70 years. But it's new when we say a retrofit. So really, what is it? It enhances the existing building to improve energy performance. And the measures can include things like insulation, heating upgrades, ventilation, and renewable technologies that enable you to reduce costs and make a building much more energy efficient. So why is it important? Well, it's really important because we have the leakiest properties and homes in the whole of Europe. So all of the heat that we generate tends to leak out of these buildings. And retrofit is critical in reducing that energy use. It also looks at cutting carbon emissions and addressing fuel poverty, which is a big challenge at the moment in the UK. And the upside there, it also helps the household saves money on bills because, as we know, energy cost is only going to spiral. And of course, when you retrofit a building and you incorporate things such as ventilation, then clearly that improves the health of occupants, which is a large cost to the NHS. The other thing is that it can increase the property value. So there's lots of positives as to why to do retrofit. And of course, it then is underpinned by supporting the net zero 2050 decarbonisation targets that the government has set us all to reduce our carbon footprints. So the key retrofit measures. Now, the key retrofit drive has got to be fabric first. Why would you want to put a really efficient heating system into a building that's just going to leak that air out? So the fabric first approach is what the industry is saying, and what the experts are saying is the best thing to do. And those measures can incorporate things like external wall insulation, loft insulation, either overfloor or underfloor insulation, roof insulation, room and roof insulation. It's basically insulation. You know, you want that house to almost feel like it's got a tea cozy over the top, so that it's keeping all the heat in and stopping all the heat from leaking, but also keeping the cold out. You then look at things like low carbon heating systems and heat pumps, biomass boilers, energy efficient gas and electric boilers. You will hear some people say, oh, electric, we want to get away from electric. but sometimes you have to look at every eventuality and every single option available, because sometimes electric boilers may be the solution that we're looking for. Then you've already seen on the green, Eat Your Greens, solar and air source heat pumps. So I'm hoping that those of the attended have seen that. Solar PV, again, when it's linked with other measures, can be very, very efficient. So solar PV running in air source heat pumps, electricity supply, for example. And then obviously one of the key measures is improving glazing and air tightness, but without forgetting ventilation. Ventilation is an absolute crucial element, especially when you're doing a fabric first approach. We all need to understand that we breathe 3 litres of water as every human being. And if you've got a well insulated house with no ventilation, that moisture is going to remain in the house and sit on cold surfaces and the coldest surfaces in the building and create damp and mold, which is clearly not good for anybody in terms of health. Again, there's lots of reasons and different measures that can be taken, and not just some of these, but you've got draft proofing measures, which are very simple, energy saving light bulbs. There are lots and lots of things that can be done to help improve the energy efficiency of a building. The key challenges and opportunities we see is, certainly in the sector at the moment, is there is a huge skills shortage. So for us as an industry, it is about developing skills for those existing trades to upskill, but also then apprenticeships and courses designed for those new entrants into the sector. With all these challenges, the costs and the funding mechanisms are very difficult to navigate, because there are so many funds out there, there's so many different mechanisms to work. But if you find the right organisations to support, then it is quite a simple process to deliver the works, if everything is in place that should be. Disruptions to residents and the government's track record on the green sector. I've experienced the Green Deal, the RHI failures, the feed-in tariff failures. I think this time around we've got a really positive outlook on the future of trying to actually reduce the energy consumption of all of our properties in the UK. The positives here and the opportunities are that the green skills and training opportunities presents itself with a great economic value to the sector, and lots of papers I read, they vary from 200 to 300,000 new people into the sector just to deliver these green to deliver the decarbonisation of the 26 million properties in the UK that need to be at a minimum C under an EPC. They are obviously, retrofit will provide much healthier homes, and some statistics I've seen is by insulating at least 7 million properties in the UK which are built of solid construction, which are the worst sort of properties you can have for damp and mold and moisture. The NHS spends something like £1.5 billion a year in winter just on respiratory admissions to hospital, mainly because of damp and cold conditions for living. And of course, then we've got the overarching national energy security, not relying on foreign means to keep us warm and to keep us safe. I've just sort of final slide here. There's a whole list of skills required from the retrofit coordinators who have ultimate responsibility for the completion and management of a retrofit scheme, right through down to the site management of the suppliers who are installing the work. And one of the key drivers at the moment is ensuring that those people that are delivering the works are compliant with the current regulations under PAS, and they are qualified to the level required in order to deliver the works correctly, with quality, with customers at the heart of what they do. And while retrofit presents a clear environmental and social benefit, it also comes with lots of other challenges that we're all working through as a sector. However, the opportunities in terms of job creation, industry innovation, improved living conditions for millions is the reason to do it. And as an example, upgrading all homes to at least an EPC level C would deliver about £40 billion in economic benefits over the next 5 years alone, and over £100 billion over the next decade, and reducing potential savings to the NHS of £2 billion by 2030. So hopefully that's a very brief introduction, because I was told keep it short in terms of retrofit. And yeah, I'll let the team continue with the rest of the presentation. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul. And if you do have any questions for our industry guest this afternoon, please do put those in the Q&A and Paul can answer those throughout the session. So finally, I would like to welcome Steve Muscroft from the NOCN tech team. Thank you, Steve. You've got your desktop there.
It's okay.
Okay.
Right, are we on track?
Yeah, if you just, yeah, we are on track now. Thank you very much. Thank you, Steve.
Okay. Thanks, Joan, and thanks, Paul, for that comprehensive overview of retrofit. Excuse me. I'm Steve Muscroft. I'm the senior product developer with NOCN, and I've got my colleague Christine waiting in the wings to answer any questions that you may have. I'm here to talk a little bit about retrofit and what NOCN are doing in terms of addressing training for retrofit. I'd like to start off with talking about the skills gap and what I refer to as the headlines. And we've got 26 million homes, as I think Paul mentioned, that need retrofitting. And this is not just one-offs like draft proofing and loft insulation. This is bringing properties up to EPC band C or above. So you're talking about a multiple of actions there in terms of retrofit. That equates to about 1 million homes per year. And excuse me, that's just to stay on track for net zero in 2050. And that equates to about 500,000 new skilled workers that's required. So that's for installers, insulation, heating, ventilation, and new technologies, retrofit assessors, coordinators, and people that deliver advice, because that's no longer a qualification within the past 2035, and designers and evaluators. Past 2035 and 2030 is a key standard that we have to work to for funded projects, that's government funded projects. The 2030 is the standard that's integral within 35, that's for the installers. And we are finding now that there's more and more private funders that are actually asking for this standard. And I think that's going to be a theme for the future. We know that the current skills pipeline is too small. We know that there's a massive skills shortage in the sector. That's in construction, and retrofit really is a part of construction. And so retrofit will actually be competing with construction projects as well, in terms of bringing in the skilled workforce. I've included that picture in the bottom right hand corner because when we talk about 26 million homes and 1 million homes per year, they're just numbers on paper. But that's a snapshot from Beaconsfield in Barking. That's the largest social housing estate in the UK. And if you just look at that and look at the number of properties and the types of properties there, and you think that, that's just a portion of the targets that we've got to achieve, that we've got to retrofit. And we've got to retrofit to band C or above, really to make it worthwhile. So what are we doing about it? We've got a series of qualifications. I thought it were best to present it like that to give you a pictorial overview. So everything that you see in blue is what we've already got. And starting with the level 2 award, that cascades down to all the other qualifications that we've currently got. The level 3 certificate in domestic energy assessment is the latest qualification that we've just developed. That's now available and it forms part of our retrofit family. The level 2 award in understanding domestic retrofit, that was always, and that's been with us a while now, that was always intended to be a prerequisite into the practical based retrofit qualifications in the insulation and building treatment level 2 and level 3, and you can see the content of that to the right. So that's just been sort of revised and more aligned to, you know, supporting people working on construction. But we're also going to introduce some new qualifications, and they're the ones in the sort of light orange, starting with the level 1, introduction to retrofit. We want to try and get as many people into the sector as we can, so that'll help us to achieve that. And then we've got the level 2 awareness, which is a non-practical approach to domestic retrofit. So that's for sort of customer-facing learners, you know, maybe working in housing associations, and it's less orientated towards practical. And that's really based on feedback that we've had from industry. And then finally at the bottom there, we've got, we're looking at developing a suite of non-domestic retrofit qualifications, and they'll be aligned to pass 2038. And I guess it's early days yet, but I guess they'll probably equate to the disciplines that we've got in the domestic sector. We collaborate with a range of stakeholders, and you can see some of them on the right-hand side there. I think I've got quite a good understanding of a retrofit background, but I'm not a practitioner, I'm not an installer, I'm not a tutor. So we need to make sure that the qualifications are relevant, they're fit for purpose. So we collaborate with a lot of external partners, and we just set up a little working group with IAA, who are on there, STC, and sorry, I've gone the wrong way there, but yeah, we've established a small working group to look at the development work. That's our offer. I've gone through most of those. They're the current ones that we've got available. So right through from level 2, right through to level 5, and as I said, the latest version is the domestic energy assessor, which was you know, being asked for by the sector. These slides will be circulated, and I'm just looking at the sort of time we've got. So I don't want to spend too much time going through these verbatim, but these are all the individual qualifications that we've got. So the level 2 award, which I've mentioned, that's the content that you can see, what they need to be able to do. The level 3 award in domestic retrofit advice, that's now split between mandatory units and additional units. The additional units with aim of trying to get you know, people probably 16 plus to come into the industry to take the retrofit advice qualification. So they're like introductory units. The level 3 award in energy efficiency measures for old and traditional buildings. We've worked closely with English Heritage and their partners in Wales and Scotland. And I've put a link in there to the course handbook. That's a really good resource, not just for this qualification, but for anything that you're working on in retrofit. It's really worth downloading that and having access to that. The level 4 award in assessing domestic dwellings for retrofit. You've got to be a practicing domestic energy assessor to access that. And then we've done a combined qualification for the level 3 award in in old and traditional buildings, and the level 4 award in assessing domestic dwellings. There's quite a lot of overlap between them 2 qualifications, so we've put into one qualification. They've still got a place, but it just opens it up. It's more accessible to people that are already working as a domestic energy assessor that wants to do the award, the assessor award, and the traditional builders all in one qualification. And then last but not least, the diploma in retrofit coordination and risk management. We've started developing quite a few resources now, and the list that you see there, that doesn't apply to all our products, but the stuff you can see on the right, that's an example from the study notes that we've got for the level 2 understanding domestic retrofit. And you can see the content that we've got includes learning objectives, case studies, did you know facts, further learning resources and key concepts, and check your knowledge quizzes. So we're trying to provide as much support as we can to centres going forward. Moving on to funding, and I'll move through this relatively quickly. They're the available streams, so boot camps, swaps, warm home schemes through DESNAs, moratorium application, and local skills improvement funds, LSIFs. They're the offers we've got on the boot camps. So we've got a domestic energy assessor package and a retrofit package. The swaps, the programs for coming up to 6 weeks and include pre-employment training, short-term work placements within a business, and a guaranteed job interview. And again, they're the packages that we've got with the swaps. So we've got domestic energy assessor package, retrofit, and energy efficiency one. Warm home schemes, that program's split into 4 separate work packages, and we focus on package 1, and that's the content that we include in there, the various retrofit qualifications. And the moratorium applications, we didn't apply in May, but we will be submitting for retrofit, and that's the things that we need to submit for the funding. So we just show we've got market analysis to show the skills gaps, a government strategy to show it supports net zero, employer support through letters, and then training provider support through letters, and planned registration. So how many you're going to be able to put through. Then the LSIFs, the fund supports investment in new facilities and equipment, development and delivery of new courses and curriculum, and upskilling teaching staff. And the future offer, I've touched on that. Level 1 introduction retrofit, level 2 retrofit awareness, and then the suite of qualifications aligned to pass 2038. If you want to know more, you can contact your local NOCN business development manager. And also I've put up there Chris's contact details and my contact details. So if you need to know anything more, you can get in touch directly. But I've also included that in case there's anybody out there that's interested in helping with our development. I mentioned the little subgroup, but we're also keen to invite anybody to the development process, because as I've said, it's essential that we have employer and FE input to make sure that these qualifications are fit for purpose. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you, Steve, from the NOCN tech team. There are a couple of questions in the Q&A. I'm not sure if you want to go into that and have a look at them and see if you can answer them live, or see if you prefer to get the details of Sue and answer them at a later date. I think from what I can see of what has been put in the chat previously to that, the questions have been answered. So there's just those 2 questions from Sue. Hello, Steve, can you see the questions? I can read them out if you want me to.
Yeah, but if you access them quickly, I'm just scrolling through now, trying to find them.
Yeah, so for Sue, I work with small employers in the electrical sector doing domestic, commercial, and industrial. Are they going to need to get qualified in the same way as they need to be qualified for testing properties? Not sure what impact this will have on what they already do, installing heating systems, etc.
Whatever they're doing in terms of retrofit, they'll have to be relatively, well, they're not relatively, they'll have to be competent to work on that. So whatever qualifications relate to that particular area of work, they'll need to make sure that they're qualified for. I'm trying to think what particular applications. In terms of retrofit, you'd be talking about solar PV. There'd be an electrical dimension within heat pumps that we're actually looking at that. But in terms of heat pumps, they can only work on certain sections of the actual installation. Some of that will have to be carried out by a competent electrician.
Thank you. And then Sue has followed up with a further question, which says sometimes they work for public agencies, housing associations, etc. Are they going to need any of these qualifications to be eligible when replacing storage heaters, for example?
Well, I can only speak on behalf of retrofit. And if it's a funded project, then they'll have to be compliant with PAS 2035. And PAS 2035 actually lists all the qualifications that people must have in terms of what they're working on. And if it's installation side, that'll be covered under PAS 2030, which is integral within PAS 2035. So it's best to make the reference to that to see what the competencies are really.
Thank you. Thank you. If there are any final questions for any of our presenters this afternoon, please either pop them in the chat or pop them in the Q&A, and we'll make sure we get those answered. We will wait a couple of minutes to see if there are any further questions. And if not, we will bring the webinar this afternoon to a close. And thank you very much for signing up and attending. Thank you. Yeah, I think, yeah.